Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. He stole her. That's Donald Trump describing what happened to Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, like she was just another piece of property. I have been hesitant to take on this story for a few reasons. As a dad with daughters, it's just so gut-wrenching to talk about. I also feel like so much of the conversation has ignored the actual victims at the center of it. And so I've got a special guest today to help us not just understand the story, but to feel it from the perspective of a survivor. Many of you will recognize Joanne Carducci, also known as JoJo from Jersey. This is one of the toughest and bravest conversations we've had on this show. Here's me and Joanne. Thanks. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. I've got JoJo from Jersey, Jo Carducci, on today. She's a prolific social media commentator and the author of the hugely, wildly successful Substack, Are You Effing Kidding Me? Jo, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you.
Good to see you again, too. Believe it or not, we haven't done an episode here yet on the Epstein files. Because honestly, well, for a couple of reasons. One, it feels like other people are doing fine, taking care of it. I mean, it's all you hear about from the progressive media. But there's another reason for me personally, and it's that so much of the conversation has seemed salacious. And you really nailed it with your Substack post on July 27th, where you redirected the focus to the victims. That's the main reason I have been so hesitant, because it just felt like we were losing touch with what really mattered in this story, which are the victims of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and the cabal that the right told us existed, but it turns out was theirs all along. Can you talk about what motivated you to write that piece and talk about this entire saga from the perspective of a survivor?
Yeah. Yes. And thank you for that question. And thank you for your sensitivity to all of this. I do think that the victims have been lost in the conversation. It's just the salacious side of it and the outrage side of it and the scandal of it. Which I understand, and there's a way to have all of those conversations. But at the end of the day, these were children. They were preyed upon and by bad people, one of whom is Ghislaine Maxwell, one of whom, our Justice Department right now is having conversations with. By the way, when our Justice Department went, they sent about 6 or 7 male attorneys who talked to a convicted child sex offender, but no one talked to the survivors. None of them went and had rights. And you can't have this conversation without the survivors, without their input, their stories, their perspectives. I don't want to say that sexual assault or sexual abuse breaks a person, because that gives it a negative connotation, but something does shatter inside. I was raped when I was 17. So I just want to share that. I am also a survivor. I have been very triggered by all of this, but I didn't have to look at my TV every single day and see the perpetrators of my assault paraded around, bantered about, considered, for commutations and pardons. I was able to eventually unpack what happened to me. It took me decades to do it. Without that, can you imagine what it feels like for these survivors? And one of them took her own life. Virginia Giuffre, I think that's how you say her name. She took her own life in April. And she had been one of the more vocal survivors advocating for justice, for Ghislaine and for others. And so much of this is focused on just these 2 perpetrators, right? Well, 3 if you if you talk about Donald Trump, but where are the people that these victims were trafficked to? Where's the accountability for them? Like, and as a survivor, you can't really let it go. It's part of you. It's part of your DNA. And when you can have some sort of peace or justice, it helps a little bit to alleviate some of the pain. But I think that the conversation should always focus first on justice for the victims and the fact that these were girls. And if any of us really recentered our thoughts and focus on that, it becomes a very different conversation. And I think that that's something that has been missing. And the inspiration, other than my own trauma, which at first my reaction was not to talk about that, was my friend Julie Roginski, who had actually framed it in this way as well. She writes the Salty Politics Substack. She's brilliant. And she centered the focus on the victims too. It has to be centered on them. The very male dominated media ecosystem that we occupy at the moment. No offense to allies out there like you. I love there are a lot of great men who have, been amazing voices on this subject and others. But I think you're right. And about reframing it and the importance of focusing on the victims for sure.
Hey, it's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break to say thank you to everyone who's been following and supporting this show and this channel. None of it happens without you. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my Substack page, I'd really appreciate the follow. It's a great way to make sure you never miss an episode. It's free to sign up. And if you're able to pitch in a few bucks, every dollar goes back into the show. Just search for The Ken Harbaugh Show on Substack or click the link below. Thanks. And you come to this with special authority because of the MAGA in your family, which I have too, right? For years, they have been saying they're the ones who fight for kids, right? They're the ones who care about families.
Yeah.
And yet the veil comes off when they have to choose between their leader and their supposed values, which they have been trumpeting for over a decade. And they choose their leader.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of the hallmarks of MAGA and this iteration of the Republican Party is the hypocrisy. They say that they're pro-life and that they are for protecting kids. And yet this is the same party that will force a 10-year-old to carry her rapist's baby to term. This is the same party that has looked away since this first became news that we knew that Donald Trump was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years. Since the video of that Access Hollywood video, I think it was, where he's dancing at Mar-a-Lago with him and they're joking and since he wished Ghislaine well. I mean, this is, again, like you said, this is a party that says that they're for protecting kids, and yet they will refuse to feed starving kids lunch in school. I mean, but this one really typifies the hypocrisy because, like you said, MAGA has long held this conspiracy theory that there was this global cabal of, pedophilia and cannibalism in basements of pizza places that involved famous Democrats. And this whole time, Donald Trump was right in front of their faces and they would twist themselves and contort themselves into whatever pretzels they had to make that make sense. Someone who sexualized his own daughter, who said that he would date her, who said that they had sex in common, someone who told a 10-year-old girl as she was going up an escalator, asked her how old she was. And when she said she was 10, he said, I'll be dating you in about 10 years. This is all the data points are there, but largely, again, though, the Republican Party as it exists right now, they're not pro-life or pro-kid. They're not pro-protecting children. I mean, if they were, they would be taking care of them and making sure that they had food assistance, making sure that their parents had access to healthcare and medication and safe roads and clean water. Instead, what they're doing is they're taking things away. We've seen now attacks on blue states as it pertains to, disaster recovery and disaster assistance. And at the end of the day, all of these things impact children, the most vulnerable among us. And our job as adults is we have one basic job above all else, and it's to protect the vulnerable, particularly our children. And we are failing them on so many levels right now. And one of the reasons that this Epstein scandal, one of the reasons that it has to be used and that sounds gross, as a vehicle or a delivery system for so many other things that the Republicans are doing, have done, is because, like I said, it kind of connects all the dots, because it is all of these things combined. It's how Donald Trump and Republicans have lied to you, how Donald Trump and Republicans say that they're for families and protecting kids, when none of that is true. They lie and have lied about this scandal, about what they knew about it, about his involvement in it. And they have lied about taking care of American families, taking care of children. You cannot say that you care about protecting children when you're taking their nutrition assistance away, when you're taking their Medicaid away, when you're Kristi Noem in the state of Texas, which largely voted for your party, and you wait 36 hours, before making sure that the phone systems, the phone lines that people need for help are up and running. This one scandal, both recentering it on the victims themselves is important, but also on how it exemplifies the Republican Party's absolute depravity and the fact that they just don't care. They don't care about any of us at all.
Well, I think recentering this scandal on the victims actually helps us talk about their other victims, the victims around the country, from the cuts to SNAP and other assistance programs. We haven't even talked about PEPFAR, the cutting of which might have led to 300,000 deaths of children around the world. That's a victim-centered conversation. And I just really appreciate your shifting the conversation in that direction. But until the Epstein files, it's been hard to break through with stories like that. I'm wondering, in your conversations with the MAGA people in your orbit, if this scandal is different, because it feels like the very first one in which the lie that they're being told by the president is one they don't want to hear. Every other time they've been lied to, they applaud it, they encourage it, they like being lied to because it reinforces their priors. This one feels different.
I will say, in my inner orbit here in a very red part of New Jersey, a lot of New Jersey is quite red. I'm in the more rural northwestern corner of New Jersey. This scandal is different. This story is different. And again, it's not going anywhere, which is very interesting because we haven't seen that. I mean, honestly, the insurrection vanished from the minds of the American people way faster. An attack on our capital that led to an impeachment, a failed impeachment. Nonetheless, people, died. But people moved on, and they were able to recraft that narrative and whitewash it too. They have not been able to do that with this. And I think part of the reason is that this is, the American people often say, a lot of people say that they don't want to engage with politics, that they don't do politics, right? That these are things that for other people, that they're all the same, blah, blah, blah. And they hear numbers and they hear stats and they hear polls and they hear, and they don't want to engage with any of it. And this is different because everyone can understand this. And this has been part of the public discourse, the public conversation for a long, long time. Did he kill himself? Didn't he kill himself? What happened down there? Oh, Donald Trump's involved. Oh, was Bill Clinton there? Oh, was, Bill Gates there? It is salacious in nature, but again, why it's an easy delivery system, and that sounds gross and transactional, but nonetheless, it is true, is because this nasty, horrible thing, it is like, it pierces that barrier that people have with engaging with information that seems like stuff that doesn't interest them. This is something that everybody can understand, but also many of us, if we don't have kids, we know, we have family members, we were children. And so you think about that, and you think about how anyone could do that to children, and across the board, people are disgusted and outraged and repulsed by that and infuriated by that. And so you have all of those emotions, and people start paying attention, but he is also making lots and lots of mistakes by making people look stupid or feel stupid for wanting to engage with this stuff, for wanting answers, for wanting accountability. They promised them. They dangled all of that. And now you're stupid if you want more. If you're stupid if you want what they promised.
That was part 1 of my conversation with Jo Carducci. In part 2, out tomorrow, we dive into the effect this story is having on the MAGA movement. And Jo also shares some deeply moving insights about overcoming trauma. I hope you'll tune in. See you then.
New Meidas merch drop! Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.MeidasTouch.com.